Actually, I've done the Camino de Santiago. So I know how powerful walks can be, really. And being in nature. And also, even though I was walking with my sisters, they'd be way ahead or way behind. So there were times definitely I was alone, which was wonderful. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Mm-hmm. At times scary, but for the most part, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what,
Amazing. I think that was pretty fluid and organic.
Well, you were very that way.
Thank you.
No, really.
It wasn't even what I was planning to talk about.
Oh, what were you planning to talk about?
I was going to talk about my attack last year and my forgiveness.
I thought you would talk about that too.
I don't know how this came out.
Wow.
Well, that's probably why it was so great, because you were so spontaneous. Yeah.
But I'd love to hear that story too.
Yeah.
Maybe we could tape that at some point too.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think that that story. I mean, I don't know it. I know tiny bits of it, right?
Yeah.
Is what we want to try to do in the podcast as well, of people having things that they think, this is it. This is the end of, I can't get through this. I can't do this. And then they realize, yes, they can. And they come out, well, I've had friends that don't come out of it well. And others who just blossom, I mean, really, out of incredible tragedy, take that and change the world. Mm-hmm. Not just themselves, but other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you do. And I think from your experience, that's what you continue to do.
I never thought, so it was a year ago in October when it happened, and I was so angry for so long. I just wanted revenge so bad. And to me, revenge looked like him going to prison for the rest of his life. But as I let go of that, and it felt such a beautiful weight to let go of, that outcome and that anger. And I began to see, like, if this is just a ripple in a time that I gave grace to this human being, if it's just a ripple in a time into the future where this is the normal, like that we forgive people like Jesus did, like we've been, taught of what real forgiveness means, and then this doesn't keep happening, because I truly believe everything in life is, we're learning lessons, and we have to keep repeating the same lessons with different people, different players, different circumstances until we learn the lesson. So if this is the final lesson learned in my lineage of my, and maybe even whatever he gets out of it, maybe, and then to be able to let that ripple out, that wave now exists there on that reservation and that teepee and that earth there, because earth is a recorder. She remembers everything. And there's so much tragedy on the reservation. There's so much pain and suffering and death still. And to just have a little glimmer of light, of hope in that space. And when I went to lead sweat lodges for women this past summer, I couldn't believe how many women had the same story as me in there. Most had not healed from it. And most were never shared their story. They just kept it in, but in the safe space of women gathering and sweating and pouring water over the rocks together, it came out. And that was when I had the understanding that I was there because I held the vibration of really healing it in my own body. I didn't heal it for him. I held, and Cal still hasn't forgiven him. Cal's still he's in pain from it. But for me to hold that vibration, it showed, they thought, how could somebody forgive somebody who's done that? And then you hear more stories of it happening. And I met somebody at a sweat lodge here in Tijuana who was in prison for 25 years for killing someone. And he told me, I killed somebody. I was a gangbanger when I was a young kid. And the day after I killed the guy, his mother wrote me a letter, and it said, I want you to know my son was very important to me, but I forgive you. And he said that messed me up worse than actually what I had done. That his mother, that I took somebody's son from their mother and she forgives me. And it just was like something that so incomprehensible to him, but it shows me the power that women have really to forgive, and that this is the healing to stop wars. This is the healing, to stop these old patriarchal ways of thinking, of ways of running governments and ways of running countries and control of people, is this the woman, and the power that the feminine has to forgive. It's a guide. It's like a guiding force.
Not forgiving is like drinking poison and expecting somebody else to die. Really, that's a poison.
What I felt when I had gone to a peyote meeting in central Mexico, in Tepoztlan, and that's all I could feel. The medicine showed me all the poison I was carrying, and I felt so sick with that poison. I just thought, I can't, like, it was so heavy, and it was in every cell of my body and in between my, joints. It was so heavy. And when I was able, right after that ceremony, a huge weight was lifted, but I hadn't forgiven him yet. But I saw a path towards it, and I just trusted that I have to follow this path that's telling me to have a forgiveness ceremony with him in a teepee with the peyote medicine on the reservation. And I realized I was not terrified of anything else in the world but that. It had me shaking. I was so terrified to be in the same room as him, to forgive him. I was happy to go to court and say, screw you, you're going to prison, haha. And that was hurting me. The medicine showed me how much that revenge was pain in my body, and that I was sick. I was sick from it.
So I don't really know this story. Do you mind just maybe quickly telling us what happened?
Yeah. So it was a year ago on October 4th. It was Cal's birthday. We were staying with his sister and brother-in-law on their property near Shiprock, New Mexico, on the Navajo reservation. And I wasn't getting along very well with his sister. And we were getting ready to leave the next day, actually, but we had been there for 2 weeks. We were working out there, and we were having some issues getting along. We weren't fighting, but we just weren't getting along. And she really let me know she didn't approve of me and didn't approve of me with her brother, and so the night of his birthday, we tried to stay away, the whole day and spend his birthday in a good way, away from the house. And we were staying not in the main house, in a hogan, which is a traditional Navajo home, near the house, 20 yards from the main house. And we celebrated his birthday. We got back at 10 at night. She had a cake for him, but she just kept tearing into me during this birthday celebration, saying, like, I'll always be there for my brother. You won't. You're this, you're that. Just really, and he just held my hand and he said, this is my birthday. I didn't come here for you to talk to Vanessa this way, which upset her more. So we left. Her husband wasn't there at the birthday cake. It was just the three of us. We went back to the hogan. And we're getting ready for bed. Like, I had my pajamas on, my glasses, and we hear this angry knock on the hogan door. And it's like a wooden door where you kind of lift up the beam to open the door, one of those old doors. So we lifted that up, and her husband stormed in. He was drunk, and he got in my face and just started screaming, I told you to apologize to my wife. And I didn't react to how angry and drunk he was. My only response was, I did apologize to her. She didn't accept my apology. That was the only thing I said. And he picked up that wooden post and swung it over my head and knocked me down. Cal was on the other side of the hogan. And then he just kept beating me with it. So he took over 15 swings at me. He made direct contact with my head 3 times. And then Cal came over and tried to stop him, but Cal was behind me, so he pushed us over. So I had fallen on Cal, and I completely left my body. I was in a complete state of trauma. So I was out somewhere else in the ethers just screaming and crying. But Cal was there, present, and he watched where he was swinging that wooden post and just blocked it with his arm everywhere, and so he couldn't get a good hit on me anymore. So then he went for my feet, got my feet, and And then Cal wrapped his legs around me. So Cal just had a shield. He was behind me, just shielded me. And then he said, since he couldn't get a good hit on me, he said, I'm going to get my gun. And I knew he was going to kill me at that point. So he ran to his house, and I would have hid under the bed. That's how much of a panic and like not knowing what to do. I would have hid with no exit and his one gun, hid under the bed. But Cal said, grab the keys. We need to get out of here. So we grabbed the keys, and remembering it almost feels like a horror movie where like we couldn't get the door open because we're shaking, and then we can't get the keys in. My head is swollen like the size of a baseball on the side of my head. And I see him walk out of the house with a shotgun, with a scope on it. And I'm screaming at Cal to drive, and he's trying to get his sister. She came out at that point and was just crying, and like, what did you do? She was like, I didn't tell him to do this. She's crying. He's trying to get his sister in the car. She won't come. So he's like, I just have to leave my sister. And he's crying for that because he's thinking now this man's going to hurt her. So we had managed to grab the phones and the keys, nothing else that we had. We have no shoes on. We're in pajamas, and we're driving off the reservation. And this is just miles of desert. The closest hospital or town is like 30 miles away. So I call 911. I tell them I'm being chased by someone with a gun. And they tell me to go wait at this gas station that's closed. It's out there in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, if he gets in his car and is following us, that's the only place to go. Like, this is how every horror movie ends. I'm not going to an abandoned gas station in the middle of the reservation. So I said, Cal, we can't go. We need to go to the hospital. Just drive all the way to Shiprock and let's go to the hospital. And we tried to call 911 back to tell them that we weren't taking their advice to the gas station. And it went to voicemail. And it went to voicemail 3 or 4 times to the point where we just never got a hold of them again. We walked into the hospital just so out of it. I had a concussion. Cal's arm was broken in 3 places, but he didn't even realize that his arm was broken because our adrenaline was so high.
You're in shock.
And this hospital was just so used to seeing this type of tragedy. They were like, well, you're walking, you're okay. Like, it was like, since we could walk in there, it was not that bad. And they separated us. It was all very confusing there, but the police didn't show up till 3 hours later. Wow. And then we ended up being discharged that night, and we went to a hotel. But I remember, like, all the emotions of all the things going through me, and that I almost died. I thought about how many, just that it was so shocking that no one came for me. I just would think, when you call the police, they're coming for you. Nobody came. And it was like an awakening to the reality of what life is like for women on the reservations, and that there are over 600 murdered and missing Indigenous women that just disappear. If Cal wasn't there, I have no doubt I would have been buried out there next to the dinosaur eggs and bones. No one would have found me. And Cal told the police officer, if you don't do something right now, because they weren't going to do anything, he said, I'll make sure the president of the Navajo Nation knows that you didn't help her when someone tried to take her life. So he was the only police officer on duty for 200-mile radius. They had only one cop. He woke up the other officers, and they went to the house, and this guy who attacked me, his name is Melvin, and he had told his wife, don't answer the door or I'll hurt you. So she was in the bathroom, texting Cal that she couldn't open the door. The police came in on the reservation. They can't come in or enter at all. So he just didn't come out, and then they just forgot about it. And I don't know, they forgot about it. They went home. And this guy Melvin fled up to the mountains to their other property. And but because it happened on reservation land, and I'm non-native, the FBI got involved, and the FBI came to our hotel the next day and took reports from both of us. And they let us know, the FBI works very slowly, and we're gonna pursue this, but could take a long time, and it took over a year for them to really do anything. He was just free for a year, and I was in fear for a year, fear, just in complete trauma. And I had PTSD. I didn't know what that looked like. I'd worked with people who had PTSD, but until you have it, you couldn't really understand what that means. And it's just a complete change of reality in your mind. So I would, just when I was back here in Mexico, we heard fireworks, and I dropped to the floor, and I could have sworn that they were gunshots and that there was a gunfight happening outside of my house. And I called 911 again and again. It was going to like an answering service, almost like the same thing was happening again, where nobody in Mexico was answering the 911 calls. Cal stayed with me too, because he thought they were gunshots too. So we stayed hidden in our hallway for 30 minutes. I'm whispering, talking to the police, because I really think there's cartel fight going on outside my house. And then we realized it was fireworks, and it just was this whole like complete mind warp of what reality was and what wasn't reality. Wow. And I would say that I don't know that my physical body has healed completely. There's peace in my mind, there's peace in my mind. And that what justice looks like to me, it doesn't look like this man going to a prison system that's full of black and brown men that are built for how many black and brown men drop out of high school. They build prison cells based on that. That's not justice to me that he dies in prison. That there's like systemic issues between people of color and racial issues that are involved here, especially being on reservation land. And this guy's had a terrible life. And this is how they've been taught to express themselves in many ways, that, it's there's so many layers to it. So, and also there was this feeling of, look at the FBI fight for me, because everybody loves a news story of a white woman beaten on the reservation, but there's no, news headlines about the Native women that are missing. They just go unnoticed. There was all these layers of emotion I was feeling about the justice system, about my role in it, and about how the world sees me and everybody wants to rescue me and save me from the reservation. Well, this man needs saving too, and for me that didn't look like justice was locking him behind bars for the rest of his life.
Can you talk about the forgiveness process that you went through at the tipi?
Yes. So I wanted nothing to do with the Navajo people after this experience, or Cal. I gave up all my turquoise, all my ceremonial paraphernalia, like all the beautiful feathers, everything I had, the songs, the drums. I wanted nothing to do with Navajo. And I went to Colombia, and I went so far away, from this life. And I thought, I'm not going back to it. I left Cal. I thought, I'm done with it. And I was gone for 3 months. And I had my own healing take place there, and I experienced really beautiful things in Colombia. And on my way back, I stopped in Mexico City. I have some friends there, and they said, we're going to this peyote meeting with a maraque, which is a huichol or huijaraca medicine man, who they are like a guide between the spiritual realm and this realm. And his name was Eusebio de Santa Catalina, and his assistant was El Chirigon. And I was only used to or familiar with Navajo peyote medicine, so that's something the indigenous cultures share from Mexico and North America. The tribes from Mexico actually brought the peyote medicine to North America, to the Comanche and the Apache, and the songs and the stories, and they're connected. So the tribes are connected, and so I went. What was interesting is that there's a very strict way in the north to do the ceremony, and one of the main things is that you have to walk into the teepee clockwise always. You can never walk the other way. Down here it was the opposite. You walk into the circle counterclockwise. So I thought, it's so amazing. It's like I'm doing it in a completely different way, almost like an unwinding.
Yeah.
And And I'm, they had it outside, and there was a lot of people. There was a fire, and I was feeling the effects of the medicine, and all of a sudden, these men who don't speak even English are singing in Navajo. They're from a completely different tribe, completely different language, and they're singing Navajo songs from the peyote songs up north. And that opened the door for me to come back and showed me again the beauty of the Navajo culture, the beauty of Navajo medicine, the beauty of the peyote way, the beauty of the songs. And as I opened that door to see that beauty again, I started to tremble, and I realized I had been shaking since my attack, but I was fine on the outside, but my inside I was shaking, and the medicine was showing me how I'm like shaking like a little like rabbit after they've been attacked. That shake was like a constant in me, and then it showed me that the only way to let that go was to do a forgiveness ceremony with this medicine in the north with Melvin. And I thought, no way. I was battling with this medicine, this spirit in my mind saying, I won't do that. And then I started to shake more and thought, I'm not scared of anything more in the world than that right there, and I'm not doing it. And I was just like in the state of complete fear for hours, it felt like, in the ceremony. And then I thought, I need to ask for help. I need someone to help me. So I went up to the assistant, and I shared with him what had happened. His name was El Chirigon. And he acted as a conduit for Melvin. And he said, I want to ask forgiveness for what men have done to women, like throughout time. How we act in ways that we don't remember, or we get drunk and we do these things that affect people for generations. But we're hurting too. And he just started to speak to me that way. And I could feel these energies being lifted off of me. I could actually see it. You can see energy when you're under these plant medicine. I could see him taking it from me and channeling it and transforming it into something else, and then I made an offering to the fire, and everybody was with me. So I wasn't alone. There was 100 people focused on my issue and my problem and my pain and my healing, 100 strangers. And I just felt so much love, and I felt like I saw the pathway then for what I needed to do, that I needed to call this ceremony, because it showed me this is the way to heal the earth. Like, healing the earth doesn't happen by doing what everybody else would do in this situation, like send someone to jail and then nobody heals, and then he's gonna want vengeance on me, and it's like this cycle of vengeance that our children's children feel. And so I called Cal and I told him what I was shown to do, and he was like, absolutely not, there's no way. And I said, the medicine showed me that this is what I need to do, and he reluctantly set it up to happen. And we set it up on his grandmother's land. So the Navajo culture is matrilineal, so the grandmother inherits the land, the grandmother inherits the Hogans, and we set the teepee up on her land, which one hasn't been set up in there in 40 years. And when you set up a teepee, it means to everybody else that can see, as far as they can see, come. It's an open door to come. Oh. And people were coming from all over because they saw a teepee's been put up. Wow. That hasn't been put up here in 40 years. Wow. And there were in that teepee 8 medicine men, peyote leaders. It was a blessing just to be in the room with this many powerful medicine people, but then to have the opportunity for them to bear witness to this act of grace. And I also had gone to a sweat lodge here in Mexico the week before that really helped me open the way, because I was still very scared, but people helped. It was a group effort. It wasn't just me alone. It was everybody in prayer, in reverence, taking on my pain as theirs to lighten the load a little. That's why we gather in circles in sacred spaces. And so when I got there, I was nervous to see him, but it was almost like I had already forgiven him before the ceremony happened. And when he walked in the teepee,
so he even came willingly.
He came willingly, yeah.
How did he react?
So I had also heard from Cal talking to his sister that, he was suicidal. He said he was going to kill himself rather than go to prison. He was, he was just a broken man after that. I think he was going to spend his life in prison. So he came through, and when he got to me, he got on his knees in front of me, and said he was sorry, and cry. He was crying the whole night. I mean, he was crying. I was, and Cal really had a hard time. So Cal still in his heart, hates this man, and for what he did to me. Cal witnessed everything, and Cal broke his arm. So Cal had a much harder time in that ceremony, but it was so beautiful. And the medicine men they were telling him, and they're like, this woman is giving you a second chance at life. And it was almost like this surreal moment of I'm not from this culture or this tribe, but I'm here to offer grace and peace for a unity to happen between all races on earth, that we can find another way forward, that we can move through these ancestral traumas that still exist on the land, in the hearts of people, that maybe aren't always recognizable in the modern Western world, but they're recognizable on the reservations.
Uh-huh. Do you think he was healed?
He talked to me after, and he said he'd been in anger management classes and that they were helping him. And I think the only thing that can heal really for him would be to continue on this medicine path with the peyote medicine in the Native American church. I know that he was just a broken person before, and I think he still is in a lot of ways a broken person. And we had a lot of talks after I spoke with him and his wife, but Cal still, just because we forgive them doesn't mean that they have access to us or our lives ever again. Right. We forgive, and we don't forget. We forgive, but we're never going to put ourselves in that situation again. We're never going over for dinner again. It's not like we're all buddy again. And
but I just wonder for him too, because I think that men especially, they're carrying huge wounds generationally. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is it going to take? And I think it is women showing them the way, but what is it going to take for them even to be able to move forward?
Yeah.
Do you know the origin of his anger?
I would say it's probably ancestral.
Really? Mm.
Yeah. I mean, life is, unfortunately, these stories of beatings are common, and unfortunately there's a lot of family murders and fights and just a lot of trauma that kids grow up in. I have no doubt that he grew up in that type of family.
Well, and all the missing women.
Yeah.
I mean, there's hundreds, really. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's even thousands, really. Mm-hmm. Not just on reservations, but, around the globe. Mm-hmm. I had my cousin, that's what she does in wartime. She goes to, areas and helps some boys too, but mostly it's women and children who have been raped, who have been, almost killed. I mean, just horrendous situations all around the globe, all around the globe. She's been doing this work for, I think, 30 some odd years. And it's just amazing to me that she can continue doing it, because I just don't think, after a certain amount of time, I'd be like, oh.
What is really astonishing to me is I look at what's happening right now in Gaza, that Benjamin Netanyahu has not understood that what he's doing has just expanded the hatred and the continuation of war for centuries to come. You can't do that kind of thing without there being enormous ramifications. Mm-hmm. How come we haven't learned? What is it? How come we haven't learned the lesson?
We haven't.
Like you did.
Yeah, well, we just hope that individuals do, and that
Yeah.
becomes a mass
Mhm.
that then
We need to
changes.
reach critical
but
mass.
It does seem like, the tipping point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does seem like it's taking longer than I would have hoped it would have taken. But,
Yeah.
we're here for this speck of time, and it's this. So I just have to hope that there's a point at which, but like you said very early on, I think, with that, not this story, but even your first one about, you said about healing yourself before you could even begin to heal others or even help others in any
It
way,
really
right?
does make sense, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It does.
I want to share one more.
Can I get a
Part
bottle
of
of
that.
wine?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to.
So you have to
Well,
drink
this
up
should be
your water.
recorded though. This about, but you can start it back up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah,
There's
I'll
a few. She's
Stories, these books, and a lot of the women are in prison, and they go around and get the stories, and then they go on book tour all over Mexico and in New York City, and I just think that's such a beautiful gift of all those stories in one. So this podcast can even turn into a book. Because really you can just speak, and there's transcribe acts that write it out.
Oh, yes.
So every
Yeah.
woman's story
Yeah.
could be, if the
Transcribe.
I mean, if this audio doesn't work out, we can make mine a transcript. Just kidding. But
Oh, so tell us
I
the
do.
story.
If you want
Okay.
to record,
Yeah,
I do want to
let's
share.
Yeah,
it.
it's on.
Okay. So one of the most memorable moments in the forgiveness peyote meeting was with a friend. I had one friend who came to support me. Her name's Julie Kibido. She's a good medicine sister of mine, an herbalist and medicine maker that lives at almost 10,000 feet in the Rocky Mountains. And she's also a lumberjack and many other things. She's an incredible human being. So she came to support, and a peyote meeting is very strategic. It's not like an organic sort of, ceremony. It's like a mathematical equation, and you got to do it that way.
Oh, there's
no
certain things that
deterrent.
happen at a certain
Yes.
time. Okay.
And everybody, there's a staff.
Who runs that? I mean, who then holds that knowledge and creates that?
The medicine man. There's
Oh.
always one that's leading the
Okay.
ceremony that holds the chief peyote button. And there's a staff, like a rod that you hold, and a rattle. And there's a drummer with a water drum that follows to each person. Each person that gets to hold the staff and the rattle they have to sing 4 songs. If you open up to sing, you better sing 4 songs, and they can only be peyote songs. You can't just
4
sing.
songs.
Yeah, so you've got to know your stuff.
Wow.
And they'll move around. The drummer keeps moving seats, and people move around, and you always have to go clockwise around, in and out, and it goes all night. It's from sunset to sunrise. It goes all night, and you don't play other instruments in there. You can only play the water drum and the rattle or the gourd, and so my friend comes, who's a beautiful musician. She can play many instruments, very talented, and there's time for sharing too. There's time for talking. There's a lot of time for teaching in there between the songs. Well, you pass the staff and the gourd clockwise, and it gets to her, and she didn't know the peyote songs, and so she said, actually, and she was ironically sitting next to Melvin. She goes, actually, can you take these and hand it back? Which you can't hand. The gourd and staff can only go one way. She hands it back, and I see him take it. And she goes, I don't know any songs in Dene, but I brought my flute, and I'm going to play a song for Vanessa. And I am like, oh no, like this is so not okay. Like she's breaking all the rules. There's 7 like old ancient medicine men in here that follow this to the book, and we're messing up the ceremony. It was so beautiful, the flute, but I was so tense the whole time. Like, we're guests here, we're not from the tribe, we're these outsiders coming in. And so anyways, afterwards, it was beautiful, it was fine. At the end of the ceremony, 2 men spoke to her, and one was the drummer, and he thanked her. he said, "Thank you for playing that flute. It was very beautiful. I could feel your love for Vanessa through the flute." And another medicine man, Wilfred, said, "I've never heard a flute in a peyote meeting before. That was a first, but it reminded me of a story that my grandfather told me. And he said that at one time on Earth there was peace all through the tribes. And there was a peace pipe carrier, and his only job was to protect this peace pipe and to keep it safe. And so he would walk through the earth protecting this peace pipe. Well, then things started to get a little uneasy on Earth, and crowds started gathering, and people were not getting along. And through the commotion and the chaos that happened, he fell, and the peace pipe broke in two. It broke into a staff and a bowl. And he said one group of people gathered up the bowl and took it one way, and another group of people grabbed the staff and they took it to the north, to the plains. The Navajo and the tribes of the Southwest are the ones that took the bowl, and they turned that into a pipe, and they still smoke out of a bowl pipe that just looks very much like a bowl. The Plains Indians took their end of the peace pipe and made it into a flute. And he said at this time in the separation, that's when all the tribes lost their languages and started to speak different languages, and they couldn't understand each other. And there was chaos in the world. And he said, but my grandfather had told me that one day the staff, the flute, and the bowl will be reunited, and it will be reunited by somebody who doesn't speak our language.
Oh my God.
So the power of my friend to just bring her spirit there and her knowledge and do something that isn't done traditionally, and to receive that message, it was just such a powerful affirmation that we're doing the right thing here. Maybe we're doing something that's never been done and something that's breaking some tradition, but there's a full circle understanding of the power of the flute. So.
Well, that was beautiful, though, that he, as a medicine man there, was able to accept that. Because I think sometimes if that were to happen in different circles, I'm not saying on reservations, but even out in the world, people would be, well, as you were even uncomfortable with, oh no, this isn't right, we can't do this. We have to stick with this. But he and that group allowed that to be, and even saw the bigger piece of that. And that is a message about the world, really, right there. That we, even if something's uncomfortable or seems not what is supposed to happen or be, we need to allow some of that. Especially if it's coming from a person whose heart is meaning it, and I'm not. Especially, I don't mean in if she was doing it in a violent way or in a way that her intent was, it's my way and not your way. But that's not how she did it. She was presenting it from her place of love for you, and that's all she knew was the gift that she was able to give at that moment. She couldn't do the other gifts. That was what she had to give. And the fact that they allowed that is incredibly beautiful. Really. Yeah. Because we don't allow that.
Yeah.
Normally.
The word suppose. Supposed to.
Yeah. Sorry, yes. Yeah. And wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
I think that's a message for everyone.
Yeah.
I think we become very rigid in what we believe are the traditions or the ways that we're supposed to be.
Supposed to.
Yeah. And it's just created a bigger division rather than bringing us together, closer together.
Yeah, I think that's also just the sign of a great leader, too, that recognizes the intention of somebody and allows space for that.
Yes.
Even when other people, in the group maybe can't handle it like I could at the moment, but I learned a lesson, too, in all of that. Because I didn't used to be that way. I was very much like, or letting things organically unfold and everyone offers their own way. But then I learned this other way, which was hard for me from growing up in a church. Things had to be done away, then going my own way, and then going back into Native American spirituality and feeling like you got to do it this way now. I had a lot of resistance towards it. But then to just be in that moment and then see, but it doesn't always have to be that way. It can also be this way. Mm-hmm. And there's a true leader in there that recognized and even shared.
Well, you made an incredibly wise observation about a person who is able to lead in that way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we always respect those sort of leaders, unfortunately.
Mm. Yeah.
We have expectations even of our leaders to be a certain way. You know, I'm sure there were some people in that group that might have been thinking, oh, he needs to be reining this in. He needs to tell her to stop doing what she's doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sure there was people that had to have been
didn't want us in there because we were, from the tribe.
From the tribe.
So definitely.
So, wow. And how do we open those doorways more and more?
Yeah.
Wow. That's powerful, Vanessa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not just that experience, all your experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for seeing me. I really appreciate you, both of you. You're both role models and...
No. Please don't put that on me. I don't feel I'm in fact, I have made some major mistakes recently in my leadership. Mm-hmm. And, but it's, I always see it as learnings. Not everybody else,
I think
goes along with you on that road, when you're saying, oh, I made a mistake. They're like, what? Even that you can... admit that to a group, but also because I feel it's important to be transparent. And then also what I'm learning in this, and it's interesting, the different ways people take that in. Many times defensively, argumentatively, rather than just seeing that I'm just trying to open my heart.
That's usually a sign of insecurity and fear. Denzel Washington said something that really resonated with me. And that was, there are no mistakes, only opportunities. And I love that.
Yeah, I like that too.
We all screw up. But really, it is an opportunity to learn.
And to grow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And to help others.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because if they see me being vulnerable, this is my hope, and my transparency, then hopefully they can see that they can as well. It doesn't always work that way, like I would hope it would, but... that's what my dream is.
Yeah. Just keep on trying.
So you've been on the ocean. I just can't even imagine.
You could follow her on YouTube. You don't have to imagine. She's got a channel.
Oh, you do?
No, I don't. No. She's got some few videos up. They're very good.
What inspired you to even begin?
Well, I had wanted to start sailing for quite a while before I met my ex, and he, I was actually going to a yacht club near where I lived at the time. I'm from Rochester, New York also, and was looking into this yacht club, and then I ran into him, we met and started talking, and then he's like, oh, I'm a sailor, and I was like, oh, perfect. I was just about to take lessons because I was going to sign up for these lessons, but it's quite expensive. You have to join the yacht club, and then you have to do all these things. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just get this guy to teach me how to sail. Perfect. Well, turns out him teaching me how to sail is him throwing me into the racing scene because he doesn't want to teach me how to sail. He wants to race. Well, that is the worst way to learn how to sail. You're thrown right into the fire, basically. So I would not recommend anyone learn how to sail that way. But his skipper that he always sailed with was a world-renowned, he had won multiple world regattas. And he was 86 years old when I got on the boat with him. And I'd like to have this, beautiful, magical story about what a stand-up sailor type of guy this was, but he was the grumpiest, angriest old curmudgeon you ever met.
Wow. And yet has won all these.
Oh, he was just.
That seems like such a huge disconnect. Or do you have to be that way to treat people so that you win? Or,
yeah. So I'm seeing this unfold, and no, like I said, no one should learn how to sail via racing. You should learn with lessons. You should learn foundational things first. There's a lot of information being thrown at you, and it's not something that you can just pick up very easily, especially if you don't have a mechanical mind for it. And so, he's like, well, just come every Thursday we're racing, just come on board. Well, this old captain did not want me on board. Number one, because I'm a woman. Number two, because I'm a young, pretty woman. And number
You'd be
three,
a distraction.
because I don't know how to sail. Who the hell? Like, why would she even think she's allowed on this boat? So he made it very clear that I was not welcome.
Wow.
And every Thursday I would go to the races, and at the end of the night, every time I was crying. Every time.
And why did you then keep going?
Because
I think so many people would go, forget
angry
it.
At this man. Anger can be an incredible fuel. Because I was like, I am going to prove to this asshole that I'm not an idiot. I'm not a complete idiot. Like, I can pick this up, blah, blah, blah. But it turns out it is very difficult to learn how to sail in that way. It's difficult in general. But so, the races went on, and eventually, it was still a new relationship with my boyfriend, who later became my fiance and is now my ex. But, we were still new in our relationship, so it's also testing our relationship because we're in this very stressful situation, and, but my ex was, it's difficult to describe him, but he wasn't a very reliable guy. He hadn't really held down a job most of his life. He was an artist, very loosey, like just kind of a free spirit. Well, he happened to be a damn good sailor, though, because he'd been sailing since he was 4 years old. His dad taught him how to sail. I mean, he was born to the song Sailing. Like, his mom was in the hospital, that song came on, and we just heard that song today in the restaurant. Like, it reminds me of him. Like, his destiny was always sailing. So, he was really, really good, and this skipper wanted him. So he was like, if I can get him, I'll take this girl too. I had a car. I was the one making sure he got there every Thursday. So the only reason the skipper let me continue coming is because, well, if Logan's there, I can win. If I can win these races, and the only way to get Logan here every Thursday is with her. So that's how I got in. And so we started racing, but it got to a point where, I'm crying. It's like emotionally devastating for me every Thursday night. And so I finally said, you know what? I'm going to buy my own boat. And you and I are just going to do lessons on my boat, because I'm realizing everyone else in the races is like, how are you even still showing up? Like, why are you putting no one will sail with Dick. I can't believe you're on Dick's boat.
And that's his name? That's pretty iconic.
Yes.
Very appropriate.
So they're just like, wow, you can get this. So I had other people cheering me on because they're like, the fact that you continue to show up says a lot. We'll take you on as crew. Well, then all of a sudden, then it's a problem because, Dick wants to make sure he has control. That's a whole other thing. But anyways, so I was encouraged to keep learning. I got this boat. We went out, and I'll never forget, actually. I think Vanessa my sister may have been on board with us. We were lake sailing. It was the end of summer, and we had a beautiful sail on the lake. Just the three of us, me, Vanessa, and my ex, Logan. And we started talking because as I was learning to sail, what we did was look at YouTube videos. My ex would say, well, if you don't understand this concept, let's break it down in a video. Or we'd start to watch different things on different subjects of sailing. And so we stumbled upon people who were sailing around the world, just living on their boats and sailing from place to place. Well, at the time, I had a traveling job. I was already working remote. I was traveling all over the U.S. Like, traveling was a big part of the appeal for me to actually even consider this idea of cruising, as they call it, like living on your boat and moving from place to place. And so we were out there sailing on a beautiful night, the end of summer in New York, and we were like, you know, when you race, you do these loops, okay? So you loop around, and it's a circle. Every race is a circle. And we're like, why don't we do a big circle? Like, I'm sick of just looping around a little lake. Why don't we just circle the globe? Like, it was like, we just had this epiphany moment of, like, we could see the whole world. We could do this. There's people doing this. And that was when the dream was planted. And so we spent about a year where my ex, he didn't work. I was the breadwinner, so I was working. And he used his time during the day to research boats. Like, a lot of work went into, okay, well, how do you find the right boat that's ocean worthy?
Right.
Because now you're not just talking about tactician sailing fundamentals, you're also talking about shipwright skills. You're talking about, it's a whole nother realm for him beyond just racing certain boats. It's like, well, now we need to look into, well, where are the best boats produced? What's within our budget? Like, what makes a boat seaworthy? What's a blue water boat versus just a lake sailing vessel? You know, like, there's a lot of information that I recognize that he put into things. Well, while he's doing that, I'm saving up and I'm working and building up the funds for us to make this dream happen. So we actually started to look at a few boats when we had narrowed it down to a few of the make and models that we wanted that were within our price range. We started to travel the U.S. to look at these specific boats because it was like, you don't take this lightly. If you mess up and buy the wrong boat, you're going to be in a world of problems because...
Well, you could end up dead.
You could end up dead, or you could just never leave the dock. Or you could the boat could never... if it's not saleable... There's your dream. You just spent all this money and you're going to sink all your money into the boat and then the boat might sink anyways. And so we really tried to be thoughtful and so we actually traveled to the West Coast first and we flew and looked at a few boats in San Diego and San Francisco and then we went on the East Coast and looked in the Carolinas and Annapolis and you're also researching, well, where are the best boats for sale? Like, where are the hubs? So
at this point, though, did you have a sense that you knew what you should be looking for, at least? I mean, you had done enough research and he had that. You knew that when you saw something, no, that's not it. Yes, this is it.
Yes,
possibly?
I would say we knew, but we still were learning. Like, there's so much to it. So, like, even if it's a good boat, as in it was made well, what's the condition it's in now? And can you spot the problems, right? Because you're spending money to go travel to look at a boat. That's money that you could use for your boat. To buy your boat. So then you're trying to decide, well, how long do we keep hunting? Because we keep spending our boat money on just looking at boats. And on top of that, well, what are the specific problems with that boat? Like, what are the things we should be looking for? And I think there was a few times, like, we put an offer in on one boat, and it wasn't until we were recording. You know, we'd go through, look at the vessel and record the whole thing, and then we got back to New York, and we'd put in an offer, we were really excited about it, and then we started looking at the recording again, we're like, we missed this problem. You know, the whole deck had been rotted out in one section, and that would have been thousands of dollars and thousands of, like, time and labor to fix. And then you're also talking about, well, where a boat is located has a lot to do with how successful you are in your journey, because if there's seasons, you have to consider the sailing season of that particular location. So, for example, if we're looking at a boat in Montreal, well, your sailing season, you're going to have 2-3 months to get far south enough that you can even move the vessel, because the canal's closed for the winter. you won't have enough time to go up the St. Lawrence Seaway to go. I mean, then you're in November where nor'easters can come through, so you could be in really treacherous seas the first time you take the boat out if you have any issues or delays. And so there's all these
this
factors.
is way too much.
Yeah.
I mean, already I would have checked out. I would have checked out a long time ago. I'd be like,
yes.
I thought you could just get on a boat and go around the fucking world. I mean, come on.
So you must have been really in love with this man.
Well,
to go
no,
along
in
with
love
that.
with the idea, I think, of traveling around the world.
I would say we were in love, but we were so in love with the dream. And I think I'm lucky that I can be very transparent, and him and I have a good enough relationship, even though we're separated now, to be able to say we've had honesty all throughout our relationship. And I think we stayed together longer because we built that dream together than we would have. It also put a huge stress on the relationship, right?
I'm
because
sure,
you're like in a pressure cooker, is how a lot of sailors describe it. You're in a tiny home in extremely stressful situations. So there was that factor too, that, okay, well, it put additional stress on our relationship, but I don't think we would have even been working so hard if we hadn't like built this big dream together. You know, like I think we probably would have quit on each other a long time ago.
How long were you together?
7 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
7 years,
And
5 of those years
how
were
much?
sailing.
Oh, so you did actually sail.
Yes.
How much
yes.
around the world? I mean, how much?
So almost 10,000 nautical miles. Which is basically from Canada to Colombia. We sailed. We went to over 15 countries.
Wow.
And I mean, as a lot of cruisers put it, you guys made it further than most.
Wow.
Further than most couples.
Wow.
The fact that they're like, you made it 3 years on a boat. In those conditions, 5 years really from the start of it all, but
because every now and then you hear a story about a family. You know, haven't you heard?
She had lots of families.
You know, like a family that would decide, we're going to go. The kids are out of school. Whatever.
Yeah.
We're just taking them and going and having the experience. And my first thought always is, what the fuck? I mean, like I'm sure it takes more than just getting on a boat and taking your kids somewhere. It seems to me it would you'd have to really research all this, which is where I stop.
Much of it is like you learn through the experience, unfortunately. I mean, you try to research as much as you can, but there's so much that you can't.
Did you ever get into a place where you thought this could be it? I mean,
how many times?
Oh, really?
It's not a question of when.
See, that would be scary.
I had terrifying moments.
When they first started, I mean, all of us were scared. Everybody's scared. The whole family. They're doing.
Well, okay, so you talked about that with your walk, and for some, and actually that is scary because there's wild animals, and like you said, there are people who what is going on, but. I'm sorry, this to me is even,
my poor mother,
maybe just because
between the two of us,
that I haven't done that and I've done this a little bit.
Yeah.
That just...
Well, the videos she...
So both of you, you're poor mom. You're poor mom.
Well, when she told them she was doing this, they're like, that doesn't sound like you. That's something Vanessa would do.
Yeah.
But she showed me these 2 documentaries when they first were starting. Like, well, these are inspiration. And they were beautiful documentaries, but they were about people that had no idea how to sail and just got on boats and made it around the world. I mean, sails broken, things off. I mean, and they were really well put together. And it makes it look like, oh, anybody can do it. They did it.
But remember, there have been recent stories... Really, I would say in the last couple of years where there was a man who was...
Shipwrecked.
Yes, and drifting and barely made it, I think he was with his dog even.
Yeah.
And that they barely made it and finally somebody found them or something. And I thought, because they're a little speck in this huge...
see, that's what's so frightening to me.
Yeah.
Because it's huge. And you're just this tiny little speck. Nobody sees you, you know.
No, yeah. And in the sailing community, unfortunately, we hear a lot more stories, and not all of them have happy endings. And so unfortunately, the more you sail, a lot of times the more anxiety you get. And I relate this a lot to these old, you know, salty sea dogs who circumnavigated 3 or 4 times, and they can be incredibly angry men because of what type of fear they hold on to every day, and what they've had to live through, and what they've had to survive, and the stories and the people that they've lost. And so I mean the sea, I always say the sea can either harden you or soften you. And I mean, when you sort of let go, like I've had a few moments of just surrender, because you are absolutely not in control even when you think you are out there. And it is a terrifying feeling if you let that fear overcome you. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You can't hide from yourself, you can't hide from your fear, you can't hide from your emotions. And when you're out there for days and you don't see land, even though we were with each other, you spend a lot of time alone on passage. So because we take shifts, there's only 2 of us. You have to someone has to be at the helm. So you're always taking shifts. So people are like, oh, well, at least you're together. You weren't a solo sailor.
You're not together because...
But you're not. Yeah. Because you need each other to be sharp. You have to be sleeping when the other person's not. Like, it's a very solo endeavor with only 2 people. And so you're out there with nothing but the sound of waves in your mind for hours and hours and hours. And now, I mean, now they have Starlink and people can have internet access the whole time, but I never had that. You know, you're completely cut off. There's no communication other than the VHF radio, which you're not talking to other ships unless you have to, which is a whole nother subject altogether. So you're really just out there with your thoughts, and the things that can come up can be very disturbing. So you have to have a good mental mind to kind of handle some of these things, because memories will come up. I mean, those waves just kind of wash through your body sometimes. I have so many memories of my night watches, just looking out at the stars or looking at the waves and just hearing it, and just sort of really having these sort of shamanic experience is the best way I can describe it, where you're being transformed. I mean, the sea is always in motion, and you live your life based on the weather. So you're just like Vanessa was talking about, connecting to the earth. My entire life for 5 years was in motion, right? Like you're sleeping on the water, you never stop moving. So you're having these subtle energies every day. You're looking at the weather. Every day you're basing your day based on what that weather is doing. So you're looking at the clouds, you're looking at the sky, you're looking at the sea conditions, and you don't get those sort of like those land comforts anymore. And so in a lot of ways, that's what hardens you, is you can get kind of bitter, like, well, I want to just be able to sleep tonight, but I can't because the seas are rough and I'm getting bashed around and I'm moving like this in my bed, and this is how I'm sleeping tonight. And there's no cursing your way out of it. You can scream and cry, but there's nowhere to go. And so you have to just really learn to live with conditions. And I think that's what was most transformative for me, is because when you look around at anything that's happening in your life and you just say, like, these are the conditions, there's nothing I can do about this, but I can manage how I react to this. And I think that is what really kind of transformed some of our most difficult passages for us, is when we both said to each other, we would just look at each other and say, these are the conditions, these are the conditions. And it took time. Like, the first 2 years were ugly because we're still resisting that. You're still, sort of like, well, we did all our planning, and we looked at the weather, and
having control.
We this is, it wasn't supposed to be like this. like the conditions were supposed to be 2-foot swells, and now we're seeing 16, and this is, you know, and it's so easy to get angry. And when you get angry, that's when you can make mistakes, and that's when you put yourself in more danger, because you're not being level-headed anymore. And so I think it also taught me to just, like, try to keep my cool.
See, that what you just said was incredibly wise about anger and how it can distort things
Really quickly.
and then put us in even greater danger. So why did the two of you break up? I mean, you know, after being through something like this all together. No, well, really, no. It's about having weathered all that together and learned all that and had that experience. I would think that would bring you closer together, you know, like really bond you, because you have that experience and that history together.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting you talk about the families. We had never really talked about having kids until we started cruising, because the kids that we were meeting were just incredible. They were all homeschooled. They were incredibly cultured. Most of them spoke multiple languages. They were just really friendly, smart, intelligent kids. They weren't your typical American or any kid.
Yeah.
Any culture of a kid was like, they were having just these really unique experiences growing up, and they were understanding what's important in the world and what's not. And they were learning hard work early on. And so we actually decided to try to have a baby. And so I think that, so I actually, I had a miscarriage on the boat in Grenada, in a very, very, it was not a smooth miscarriage. It was a very painful, sudden, excruciatingly painful, emotionally and physically experience, and I had nowhere to go. There was no hospital, it was the middle of the night, and I just bled out on the boat. And it was a very traumatic experience for both of us, and I really recognized that was a huge piece of how we began to fall apart. And I think, you know, he would be the first to say that too, and he was trying really hard to be strong for me, and then he made some mistakes, some big mistakes in the months to follow, because I don't think he was processing the pain, and I think that it brought to the surface a lot of things that we were fundamentally struggling with. So on top of our other, you know, struggles, that pain just really exacerbated everything. And I think, I mean, without that, I'll just leave it at that, because I try to really honor what we had, because I experienced life with this man that most wouldn't experience in a lifetime. We experienced in just a few years together. Like the amount of incredible, beautiful memories we created, like in these remote places where there's no other boats, and you're just like connected with the land, and you're in this like picturesque Caribbean scene. Like you can't dream of a place more beautiful, and most people will never see a place like that in their lives. Like, and we were seeing those every day for months, and then we'd have really, really dark, difficult nights where, you know, one night we were almost boarded. Someone stole our dinghy. We were threatened. We hear, you know, there's violence is a very big concern. Piracy is a big concern on the water. So you're also living with those fears of, okay, how are we going to survive this? And then there's also the fear of going to a new place and getting very, very sick in a place where there's not hospitals, there's not health care, and all you have is what's on your boat to take care of you. We had one of our dogs suffered a serious injury. We had to staple him back together with 32 staples by ourselves, you know, because there was no vet. We had to go there to the vet office and use their, like, those types of traumatic things that we lived through together. But it was also like, you know, how much can we take? And I think that you know, it's easier in hindsight for us to look back and only look at one or the other. And we have to constantly remind each other, even now as we're friends and still trying to navigate through what's been like a long breakup for us, trying to work through this, is we have to kind of remind each other, hey, like we live through a lot of life with each other, and let's try to be respectful and honorable here. But yeah, I think that it's I'm in a weird place now too, because I own the boat, right? I poured all of my financial savings into the boat. He didn't contribute to any of that, but this man taught me how to sail, right? And none of this would have been possible without him, and this was a dream that we built together. So I'm in this place now where I'm trying to be respectful of what he gave me, while also protecting my boundaries and everything that I built into it, and also trying to remind myself that how much I contributed and how much I learned, and how I'm a damn good sailor. And that's, I think a lot of people look at me and think, well, he was the sailor. Once they hear that, they shut me off, as if I
didn't do anything.
As if I didn't do anything. And it's interesting, it's a lot of times the women that I've known, because what's awesome about the sailing community is, because you're all kind of going with the wind. I mean, there's different paths you can take, but you meet a lot of the same people a few months later in a new country, a new island. So I have friends that I've seen in 6 different countries that, you know, we've shared these incredible sea stories, and we go to shore and we drink and we get drunk and we create these awesome memories together. And those women, you know, through those conversations, they knew what I was doing that they weren't doing, or they knew, like, wow, she does this and this, well, I don't do that. And so sometimes you're inspiring each other, because I would learn from another woman that, well, she's really the tactician and she's doing this. And so it was like you constantly like build yourself up when you see other women doing it. You try to like kind of like build on that inspiration, because sailing is something that I've talked to men, I've said this before, that they have circumnavigated 3 or 4 times and they'll say, I'm still learning. You know, these are people who've been sailing 30, 40 years and there's still skills to learn. So you never stop learning. If someone says they know everything, they shouldn't be on a boat. They shouldn't be out there. And so I think what I started to recognize was like, and I'm still struggling with this, is like, what is within my capabilities to do without him now? And
you'd like to get back on the ocean.
I'm still, there's no way, I'm never gonna stop sailing. Like,
She joined Ensenada Sail Club Facebook group.
I'll never stop sailing. You know, in what regard is what I'm trying to define for myself now. Because I think I've seen other women in the sailing community who've had breakups, and some of them really like are gung-ho, I'm going to be a solo sailor. Well, guess what? Your boat's not rigged for that. Your boat's designed to have 2 people. So I'm in this position where it's like, but what am I trying to prove? You know, I also know that there's certain gaps in my skill sets that, you know, mechanically I'm not able to fix a diesel engine. You know, do I want to spend 6 months learning all the mechanics of things? Maybe, but maybe not. Mm-hmm. And so there's sort of like this natural time period I've just had to take, and I'm still taking, to breathe and to just figure out, well, let's reflect on everything I can do, while also recognizing here's some gaps, and what do I want to do? Because quite frankly, yeah, I own the boat, but it's a huge financial burden that he doesn't have right now. You know, I'm spending a lot of money to keep it at the marina in Colombia, and now I'm in a foreign country with this boat, and, you know, I'm all by myself. So all the years that we had years of work that we were waiting to do in Colombia, and a lot of it he was going to be physically doing, and now I've had to manage myself, or I've had to ask him for help on certain things just to make sure the boat is okay and not sinking. And so all this labor all these requirements that now completely fall on my shoulders, and a lot of them always did, and he'll be the first to say that, you know, but it's really, it can be, you know, kind of a shocking experience to just really feel like, here I am now alone in this foreign country with this responsibility that, you know, if I slip up, could be my life, right? If I decide I want to go out there by myself and I make a mistake, that could be my life. And not only that, it's just the burden of feeling like I'm in a man-dominated field. The majority of solo sailors are men. The majority of sailors are men. Most of the women who do it like I did, where, you know, their partner is a sailor or they learn together. And so it's, you know, it's kind of this like give and take constantly between like, what do I want? Who am I? Remembering everything I've done, while also staying humble, because I don't want to just like be this naive, you know, female hero that goes out there and then messes up. And it's a scary place to be, in that sense. But I mean, I don't know, there's a lot of other stories that I could tell about some of the like sea stories that would be more interesting than all this emotional stuff, but you just happen to be getting all this because this is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
No, but that's what it's all about, overcoming and
Well, not just overcoming. I think, as you stated, trying to figure it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have all these pieces and you're very aware of all of it. So where am I in the midst of all that? And then what do I take from all that, and which path am I going to take as a result of all that?
Mm-hmm.
That's always been the struggle for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, trying to hear all that, feel all that, understand that, and then know the path.
Yeah, and I think, you know, sort of like Vanessa talked about, is like when she was out there in nature, like she really, she connected with herself, right? And I'm tormented by dreams of being out there again. That's why I know that I'll never stop sailing until my body says no more. Because the most profound self-discoveries happened out there for me. Or they happened stepping foot at a new place because that vessel took me there. And what's really beautiful, and what most sailor will tell you, is your vessel becomes an extension of you. Like there's so many stories of, you know, these naming ceremonies people have for the boats, and different cultures, you know, refer to a boat as a male or a female, but I truly felt, and I think that's, it would really break my heart in a lot of ways to sell that boat, because I connected with her. Like she when you're out there, that's your only hope of staying alive. So she holds you, like even when she's beating you.
That's beautiful.
She's holding you, and they say that you break before your boat does, and that's really true, because you're out there, and in those big seas and those conditions, you just want to crumble, and that boat, she just powers through it, and she taught me strength that no human has ever taught me, because of what she was capable of pushing through. Like, I'm sorry, but she just, she was alive. Mm-hmm. She's still alive. Mm-hmm. And she held me while I was losing a baby.
I love that image that she held you.
She held me. Like, she is a vessel, you know.
Does she have a name?
Yeah. Her name is Mama Kocha. which is the Incan goddess of the sea, but she's the Incan goddess of all water. So she connects rivers, lakes, streams, all of it. And it's, that name has brought so much significance to me through my time with her, because I just felt like, you know, historically they say Mama Cocha is the protector of fishermen and sailors. And I just felt like she was this goddess entity that was just holding me in those really terrifying moments. And it also created a relationship where I really wanted to honor her. Because if you take care of your boat, she will take care of you. And so if you put in the labor and you really, like, you listen to her. Like, I remember holding her mast at one point and just feeling like, as the wind went through that metal post that's 60 feet tall, and you're looking up at this massive, you know, the wind is vibrating through it and making these sounds that are just unique to only what a mast sounds like, and the vibrations are touching my face, and it was like she was kissing me back. It was like hugging a tree, but it was a piece of metal, and I never knew that we could connect with metal and fiberglass in that way. Like, I wouldn't think of those things as being alive, but a house never did that to me the way that a boat did. A car never did that to me the way that a boat did, because the energy that you accumulate out there being in that vessel, there's something about, I think, that it really stays in there. And I know that homes create memories and they hold that space, but it's even more so, I feel like, with a boat than I've ever felt in a home, because she takes you to these incredible places, and you're constantly just looking at her like, please protect me, please, please. And I would talk to her and ask her and beg her, and sometimes she was, you know, fickle. She was a fickle woman, and sometimes she didn't give me the peace that I asked for, but every time she gave me a lesson. Every time she's strengthened me. And at all of those really, really tough sails, afterwards I felt transformed. I felt like, wow, I did that. I survived that. And so there's a magic in it that I don't think I could find in any other sport or hobby or whatever it may be, and that's why I'll probably never really quit, because there's a freedom that you get from being out there with nothing but miles, and just knowing that this is all we are. Like, these moments are just all we have.
Wow, what incredible lives you both have had. I mean, really, you know, it makes me almost sad for all the other people. No, it does, because I think, you know, so many of us live, you know, quiet lives of desperation, right? Or just, you know, very, or typical,
Mundane,
right? Or mundane, or,
yeah.
you know, or just, you know, I don't know, go to this and then do this, you know, wow. You know, what gifts you both have given and have received by nature.
I feel so blessed.
Right? And, you know, they even say now, all the research says that we all need to connect to that more often. Some of us are listening, some are not, you know.
Yeah.
But you guys have not just listened, you have dove right in. You know, it's like a boom, you know. Yeah. And then I think lifted higher as a result. Really, you know, wow.
I think anytime you are forced to face yourself is really the gift. Because if you can walk away and know that you have gone through whatever it is and you made it, what a gift that is, because that has to give you peace. To know what you're capable of sustaining, is that the right word?
Enduring, too.
Enduring, that would be a better word. To know what you're capable of enduring has to be peace-provoking. It must be.
Absolutely.
And both of you.
Yeah. Well, and strength.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
you know your inner strength. You because you've experienced it, you've been through that, and so you know you can get through anything.
Whatever life throws at you. Yeah.
You know, I think of so many people that end up killing themselves because they really haven't experienced that. You know, they are capable. We're all capable of getting through even the most horrendous situations, but sometimes we don't allow ourselves to even travel that path because it's too frightening or it's too overwhelming. I don't know.
Can you imagine being hit in the head with a post?
No.
And having to endure 12-foot swells?
But also, and having a miscarriage out in the, you know, I mean,
That's
no.
right, yeah.
You know, I can't imagine anything that you both have been through.
Well, there's an analogy I'll give you of my first night sail where I was at the helm by myself. So when we first started, for the first 2 major ocean sails, my ex's father came to support us. So we always had 2 people at the helm for the first couple big sails.
Up in the Atlantic
Up in the
seas.
North Atlantic, yes, because it's rough and it was terrifying. Those are other stories. I mean, I'd need a week to tell you all the sea stories, but I'll get to this one because I think it reflects what we're talking about here. You know, so Logan, my ex, knew, okay, she's going to be nervous. It's her first time at night by myself at the helm. It was a completely black night, so no moon. And the sky was just covered with low clouds, dark overcast. So you're wondering, okay, are there going to be storms? And because of that, you can't see the waves. So it's very hard to steer because you steer with the swell. You know, you steer with the wind, but you also really, when you're ocean sailing, you steer with the swell. So when you have a lit sky at night, when you have a big moon, or if you're near land and you have light pollution, that helps to see too. Or stars. Well, I had none of that, and this is my first night shift by myself, and I'm at the helm. He goes down to get sleep because he's exhausted because he had already done like a 6-hour shift, and I'm very terrified, as I should be, because I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to take down the sails if there's a storm, like I'm still learning the autopilot. How do I go down to notify him if something goes wrong? There's a million things going through my mind. I have to watch out for ships. Like these big, huge cruise and cargo ships can come up on you really quickly. It's a sure way to die, getting hit by one of those ships. So there's a lot to factor in. And I remember just like being at the helm. But what happens is when you hand steer, you know, we had an autopilot, but Logan insisted you need to really hand steer. The more you can hand steer, the better sailor you're gonna become. So he pushed me in a lot of ways that I appreciate and I'm thankful for now, but in the moment, you know, I wasn't. So I was hand steering, but what happens when you hand steer for a while is you start to really feel the ocean, because that wheel is connected to the rudder, which is connected to all that water, and every single wave and bump you can feel. You know, you can feel it in your whole body through your hands. And so you start to connect with the water, and it sort of hypnotizes you. And eventually your body's reacting, your muscles are moving, and you're not even thinking about what you're doing. You know, it becomes more natural, like you know, even more natural than driving a car. And so an hour goes by, but I kept hearing like this weird sound. And, you know, so I'd feel like, okay, I'm finally relaxing, and then I'd tense up because I'd hear this sound, and I was like, what the hell? It's so creepy. It sounds like someone's breathing behind me. Like, this is how you hear these, like, horror sea stories, right, of these, like, ghost ships or something. Like, your mind is going crazy of, like, what is that sound? And so I kept kind of, like, looking behind me, And at some point, my eyes started to notice this like glowing in the water. It was like these like purple and blue streaks, and I was like, what am I looking at? And I realized that each wave I'd heard of bioluminescence. I didn't know what it was, but bioluminescence is this like a living bacteria, if you will, in the water, that when it's moved or disturbed, it sparkles and shows, you know, a illuminating color. Mm-hmm. And so as each wave turns, that crest of that wave is purple or blue, depending on the bioluminescence, or just completely sparkly. So I'm watching this, and I'm hearing this breathing, and I'm like, still just spooked. And then I realized that an entire pod of dolphins is swimming behind the boat and jumping, and I could start to see their bodies with the bioluminescence. We get into this like larger section of bioluminescence. That must have been beautiful. And so the breathing I'm hearing is literally their breaths. They had come to like help me through the darkest part of the night of my night shift. And I just felt like, you know, and I remember watching the sunrise, you know, so you're doing it for hours, and eventually when you really watch the sunrise at sea and there's no light pollution, you're kind of like, is this actually happening? Is light actually starting? Because it takes a while. The sky lights before the sun shows on the horizon. So you're sort of like, are my eyes just tired? Is it turning lighter? But there's a moment when you know, okay, the sun is really coming up, and now I have maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, depending where you are in the world and what time of year, before the sun actually shows. And I remember that moment when I first saw the first sparkle of the sun, and I just cried because I had survived the darkest night. And to this day, that was the darkest sailing night I've ever sailed, and it was my first night alone, and those dolphins came with this beautiful sparkling gift of, you know, eventually I hear their little squeals of delight as they're playing in the waves behind the boat. And it just was like a reminder that, first off, even when you're completely alone and in the dark, you're not. You're not alone. You're not. Yeah. And that the sun will rise. And I think it's a memory that I try to keep with me when I'm really struggling and I'm feeling like I'm in a dark place, is that, you know, even if I can't see the moon, the sun is still shining on the moon and lighting it. And, you know, the sun is still there even if I can't see it. And, we forget that in the dark times, but...
Yes, we do.
Darkest before the dawn.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, true.
And you both have experienced that, but in very unique, different ways.
Yeah, we've spent many lives together.
For sure. Our life events have often been mirrored with each other, where we've gone through breakups around the same time, or we've had big shifts around the same time, because we have a beautiful sisterhood that I think is, you know, has a spiritual depth that I would argue most siblings don't
okay,
have.
so how long are you around here?
For sure until February.
Oh my gosh, because I would love you to even talk about that connection you just started talking about between sisters, really.
Yeah, well, and I feel so blessed because our mother has 3 sisters, and you know, we've never felt this connection that we have with each other. We've never seen it reflected in them, in their closeness, you know. So we went through everything together growing up. We did everything, you know, from different eyes, but we had that bond of, I don't know if survival is the right word.
Sometimes it was.
Sometimes, yeah, survival. But
it's interesting because when you told me that you were going to go and you said rescue my sister, I thought, oh my God.
I think I said it as a joke though.
Oh really?
I don't know.
Well, because I kept thinking,
What to rescue my sister from Colombia.
What are you rescuing her from? And my mind conjured up all sorts of scenarios.
Oh,
So when I saw you walk in, I thought, you don't look any worse for wear.
oh my gosh.
But you both obviously have a very deep connection.
Mm-hmm.
And then your lives play out in different ways, but are still connected.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the same journey is happening, but in different ways. You know, I think that's what we need to keep in mind, that, you know, we're all on different journeys, but many of the things are connected.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Had a lot of
Wow.
synchronicities.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to
Thank
both
you.
of you. This has been really
Yeah.
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
And we need to get the right equipment.
Yes, we do.
Well, even if this was just a practice